Welcome. Read A Course in Miracles along with us in our home style text class. For information about our live workbook classes, email us and check out our website for more course support, including retreats at the Little Garden in Sedona. Okay, so we're going to suggest today that you make notes for yourself, because we have a study aid that we used in working with this section, and we'd like to share it with you. So I just made notes in the margin, but then my books are totally marked up. You know what I'm saying? It's like some people like to keep their books pristine. Do it however you want. Today we're going to be in chapter 14, section 6, the light of communication.
Would you hand me the?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So just a little bit of note.
Yeah.
Timothy has recently this week got a diagnosis that for his eyes that are not good, fast moving macular degeneration. So he's using a flashlight and heavy glasses, and we've got an appointment in Phoenix Tuesday. So keep us in your prayers.
Thank you, dear.
Yeah.
Well, 90% of the time these procedures are instituted, and to get it soon enough, it usually works pretty good.
All right.
So
Okay.
no darkness shall capture the imagination for now.
There we go. And this is about light and darkness. Okay. So it's not about the physical eyes, as you know. Okay. So we'll just get started, and then I'll explain the exercise that we can do. We're only going to do one section today. It's short. And then next week, we're going to do 2 short sections together. Okay. So
that's the plan.
Yeah, right. That's our plan. Let's see what Holy Spirit has to say.
We go with the military strategy. After the first volley, the whole plan is thrown out.
Okay. All righty. So let's have Eric start the reading. It's on page 285 of A Course in Miracles, this edition.
Okay, the light of communication. The journey that we undertake together is the exchange of dark for light, of ignorance for understanding. Nothing you understand is fearful. It is only in darkness and in ignorance that you perceive the frightening and shrink away from it to further darkness. And yet it is only the hidden that can terrify, not for what it is, but for its hiddenness. The obscure is frightening because you do not understand its meaning. If you did, it would be clear, and you would be no longer in the dark. Nothing has hidden value, for what is hidden cannot be shared, and so its value is unknown. The hidden is kept apart, but value always lies in joint appreciation. What is concealed cannot be loved, and so it must be feared. Wow. Don't know where to start there. You could talk about it all day, couldn't you?
That's right. Right. You could. So maybe we should just start right here with our little
well, let his comments come first.
Okay.
Well, I'm just picking out certain bits. Nothing you understand is fearful. Yeah. So fear is associated with ignorance, isn't it? And darkness.
Yeah. And only fearful because it's hidden. Not for the picture it's giving us, just for its hiddenness.
Yeah. Nothing has hidden value. I mean, that's completely contrary to what we were taught in the world, isn't it? That everything's got hidden value, everything's got this value, and you've got to find the hidden value in things. If it's hidden, you can't see its value, then it's not really got any value. What is concealed cannot be loved, and so it must be feared. And it's doing the usual thing that the Course does about this binary thing of fear and love, isn't it?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's no middle ground of, well, it's just sort of a bit of fear and a bit of love, and it's just sort of tepid. And no, it's either fear or love. That's it.
That's it.
And honestly, I always find that difficult. You know, there's always the feeling of, well, there's got to be grades of things, hasn't there? There's got to be degrees and a full spectrum of things. And I find it difficult when the Course says, no, there's only fear and love. And it's like,
Right, exactly. Yeah.
oh, and it's not that I don't believe it, it's just that my human mind doesn't want to go there, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the resistance we have to love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And really, we're just going back and forth.
Yes, between fear and love. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me make a suggestion. If anybody else, before you introduce it, if anybody else has comments, and then I'm going to comment on this joint appreciation.
Okay.
So anybody have comments or questions about, it's a real, like Eric said, this paragraph, we could talk about it all day.
I know. Yeah.
What struck me is 5, the obscure is frightening because you do not understand its meaning. And for me, it's, you know, how I always have to know, and I know nothing except that there's love in God, and everything is under Holy Spirit and God's hands, and that's it.
Yeah, that's
That's
good.
it.
That's the choice.
But the obscure is frightening to as Eric says, to this mind, this body mind.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And some of it is obscure because we don't want other people to know. And some of it is just unconscious. It's our deliberate blindness. Both of those.
That's Jan, that's what I was thinking. Is this a reference to private thoughts?
No. That's a big,
yes,
yeah. In fact, that's part of what that last sentence is, or that sentence in this paragraph, joint appreciation.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that a good segue for you?
Yeah, Kathy, did you have anything to weigh in on?
Not really. It was just nothing you understand is fearful. So there's so many things that I think I understand, but the understanding they're talking about is understanding with the lens of the Course, you know, that everything, like you said, everything is to the healing of the planet, to my betterment, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
All right, well, let me make this comment on joint appreciation, because the joint appreciation aspect can probably apply to a lot of things, but at a minimum, it has to apply to the teacher and the student. Like the Holy Spirit is telling us, make all decisions with me, with the Holy Spirit. And you need to be in agreement with that, in agreement with what that guidance is, what that decision tells you. So joint appreciation between the teacher and the student is what learning is about.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it's implied. And as Laura pointed out, that's also a shared meaning.
Right.
And that's what he's been talking about from the beginning of this. I testify to my acceptance of the atonement by manifesting it and sharing it with others. So like we were talking about, it just says, let this light of love shine through you out to the world, and the world will see that light in you and then reflect it back.
Right.
So that's understanding with others, joint, like we understand certain things together in the Course.
Right.
You share that light of love. So I believe that joint appreciation is also between us and other people.
Yeah.
Like we can't share the drama or fear or anger, all that, but we can share the thoughts of forgiveness,
Right.
of atonement.
Right.
So therefore, like we had said recently, when I accept the atonement for myself, I'm accepting it for everyone
Right.
and for everything.
At one means everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's,
God and the whole sonship.
so that would also be in terms of our communication on an everyday level here. I mean, we
Right.
communicate with people that we
Right.
just do, and we join in that. So, anyways, that was a comment on the joint appreciation. I think it has a broad application.
Okay. So here, if you have a paper or someplace you can make some notes, this might really help. And it all starts in this first paragraph. This first paragraph really lays out the whole system in this, well, in the whole course, but in this whole section.
Right, so you're saying, here's this columns. On one side is the ego's thought system. The
Yeah.
other side's the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
Just like that's what Ken did with section
right.
17.
Mm.
How do I deal with magic thoughts? You
He
know?
did it over and over and over, but let's just do this our way, your way. Here's the idea. As we go through this paragraph again, put on one side every word, just the word that you see in the paragraph that refers to the hiddenness or the ego. And on the other side, on the other column, every word that relates to the light of the Holy Spirit. So while you're making notes, I'll read and we can see. Okay. The journey we undertake together is the exchange of dark for light. So you could put dark on one side, light on the other. Of ignorance for understanding.
And the journey is with Jesus
Yeah.
and the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm. Nothing you understand is fearful. So put understanding in the light column and fearful in the other one. It is only darkness, and in ignorance, we probably already wrote those down, that you perceive the frightening and shrink away to it from further darkness. And yet it is only the hidden that can terrify, not for what it is, but for its hiddenness. The obscure, dark, is frightening because you do not understand its meaning. If you did, it would be clear, and you would no longer be in the dark. Nothing has hidden value, for what is hidden cannot be shared. I'd put shared in the light column.
Yeah, for sure.
And so its value is unknown. So value would be in the positive column, in the Holy Spirit's column. The hidden is kept apart. But value always lies in joint appreciation. What is concealed cannot be loved, and so it must be feared. So you probably have quite a length of words. Doesn't that really help to make sense of this, to show the contrast
Yeah.
in what he's saying? Have any thoughts about this?
You know, that last sentence is just what we had referred to. Eric brought it up. It's either fear or love.
Right.
And they can't mix it up. And that's
Right.
what the ego tries to get us
Right.
to do, is that fear has meaning for our safety. It
Yeah.
has a meaning. How am I going to be safe? I need to listen to my fears.
Right.
And he's saying you can't listen to both. And the Holy Spirit is only love.
Right. Right.
And that's the part we got to get, is that the light is only love. There's no suffering. There's no pain in that.
Mhm.
It's just a meaningful answer to
Mhm.
our decisions.
Yeah.
Like you and I said at the beginning of this, the whole theme in this chapter is let the Holy Spirit make all your decisions for you.
Mhm.
And they will result in you realizing the value of your guiltlessness, which is already there.
Yeah. So, what is concealed cannot be loved, and so it must be fearful. It let's just use anger as an example.
Yeah,
I don't want you to know how angry I am. So I'm just going to act nice. Well, I'm now scared of myself and of you. I'm in a fearful state because I'm hiding
mhm.
what's going on.
And it's only because it's hidden that
That's
it's
it.
fearful.
That's right. So when we're aware of our fear, there is a way to express it that's not an attack. And we're going to talk about that when we get to, oh, I don't know, paragraph 6, I guess it is.
Yeah, the Holy Spirit doesn't attack our defense mechanisms.
Right.
That we have to let go of them.
Right. Okay. Did you get anything out of that? Was that useful?
I made quite a list, but I'm not sure. I just took any words that kind of strongly identified either way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then you can see how in one column, it's all about hiding and fear. And in the other one, it's all about openness and sharing and light.
Yep.
Okay, Laura, would you read the next paragraph, please?
It's just to say that right after trust in the characteristics of teacher of
Uh-huh.
God is honesty.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that there's no conflict between thought, word, or deed.
Right.
That's you're consistent between thought, word, and deed.
Yeah, right.
That's honesty.
There's light.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. The quiet light in which the Holy Spirit dwells within you is merely perfect openness, in which nothing is hidden, and therefore nothing is fearful. Attack will always yield to love if it is brought to love, not hidden from it. There is no darkness that the light of love will not dispel, unless it is concealed from love's beneficence. What is kept apart from love cannot share its healing power, because it has been separated off and kept in darkness. The sentinels of darkness watch over it carefully, and you who made these guardians of illusion out of nothing are now afraid of them. Yeah, so it's back to kind of, private thoughts, which are usually thoughts that are dark usually about ourselves, sometimes about others, I guess. I feel like they're usually about myself. We need to bring them to the light.
Right.
And even attack, if brought to, the light, the love. So whether you perceive that attack is coming from outside yourself, or whether in fact, it's kind of hard to say it could ever really be outside of yourself, but if you can stop yourself in the midst of it and bring it, ask for Holy Spirit and bring it to the altar, or even after, if it has created upset, you can bring it for the, love to dispel that darkness. I seem to remember, and I'm not really sure what the meaning is, but David Hoffmeister saying a couple of times, you have to bring the darkness to the light. You can't bring light to the darkness. And I don't know what the point behind that is. I don't know if he means, for instance, well, you can't say, okay, Holy Spirit, I just want to stay in form forever, so make this heaven. I don't know if that's what it means.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's very good. Yeah.
Okay.
So you know how it talks about putting things on the altar?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I got this major irritation with somebody. I'm going to put it on the altar. That means I'm letting go of it. I'm saying, I don't know what it means. I'm not going to try to handle it. You handle it for me. So that's bringing the darkness to the Holy Spirit, or to the light. The opposite, bringing the light to the darkness, is God, fix this situation for me.
My will be done by thee. That's a demand of a child that must be fulfilled.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you, God?
Yeah.
So this
So
is
I'm sorry, just one quick question, Timothy. So is that also just saying that that's when I'm focusing on a solution in form? So like, well, if God would just bless Putin, the war would be over, as a silly example, but That's not really what it is. It's the conflict in my mind is where it starts from.
Yeah.
So I have to bring the light to, or sorry, I have to bring the darkness in my mind to the light.
Mhm.
And then over time that heals what I see on the outside.
Yes.
Yeah, but it heals your mind right away.
Yep.
Okay, so the dichotomy he's working with here that's meaningful, though, in terms of the effects of our decisions made with the Holy Spirit, is this dichotomy between guilt and guiltlessness,
Yeah.
and fear and love ultimately. And what the ego wants us to believe
Mhm.
is that fear is just a natural part. There are things that are fearful.
That's what the ego wants.
That's what
us-
the ego wants
They're
us
just all by themselves. They're scary.
Right. So in the ego's world, fear has important information
Yeah.
for my safety.
Yeah.
But the light of love, that's the only thing that's in the mind. That's the only thing where we'll be able to understand.
Right.
Because guilt and guiltlessness are meaningless to try to put together. They're opposite.
Mhm.
They negate each other.
Right.
Right. And he's saying the guiltlessness is the only thing that's there.
That's the only thing that's true.
I mean, we construct the columns,
Mhm.
right? So we can, like he said, we speak as if the ego's thought system is real and there, but only so you can learn it's not, right?
Yeah.
So it's the meaninglessness and what's meaningful, right?
Mhm.
And it's what's true and what's false. Because at the beginning here, he was saying, he came out with this, the Course's theory of
I don't know where
truth.
you're looking.
Well, at the beginning, he said the truth
Beginning
is
of
true.
chapter 14.
Yeah, where he said the truth is true.
Okay.
And only
Yeah.
that
Truth is
the truth is true,
right. Yeah.
right?
Only
So
the truth. Is
only the truth is there. So that's what he's saying, is that it's only guiltlessness there,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
But you believe guilt and fear has meaning for you,
Right.
right? But that's false. But the ego's trying to have truth to that.
So so those are the sentinels of darkness,
Yeah.
right? The sentinels of darkness are our beliefs based on what the ego thinks. The ego thinks that the physical world is real. It can hurt me. What somebody else thinks and says can hurt me. I'm the victim of the world. I can suffer. I am guilty. I am unworthy. All of those beliefs are the sentinels of darkness. Those things the ego sets up as like a wall
Mhm.
and says, yeah, but you can love, but only so far. Only so far because of these things.
So the example we came up this morning
Mhm.
was this possible loss of vision of myself, right?
Right.
Now that seems very real, a very
Right.
physical thing. Like if I can't see or I can't drive or I can't read, what is that going to mean to me?
Mhm.
And what I have to do is put that up on the level of I'm experiencing a loss of love. That's what
Mhm.
everything goes back to.
Right.
Is I think I lost God's love or
Right.
my love for God. And when I can put it up in that level, I can solve it right away.
Right.
But I can't see meaning in both guilt and guiltlessness.
Right.
And that's been 2,000 years. The way to get to salvation is admit your guilt. And the Course is saying, admit your true nature.
Admit your true nature, but admit that you're believing temporarily in guilt. You know, it's like if we're feeling upset for any reason, there is darkness in us and we need to give it to the light, let the light shine on it
Right.
and shine it away. Remember very early in the text, it talked about how darkness as a metaphor, physical darkness is not a thing. It's an absence of light. And that's what he's getting at still. Light and darkness are very good metaphor for what's going on in us, in
Yeah.
our minds. So the sentinels of darkness are like beliefs that keep us from looking.
Right. And that's why the holy instant, there's immediate answer, immediate relief, because it's just my thoughts that's
Right.
causing the experience. That's the foundation.
Right.
What I think I want. And if I want guilt, it's going to be real in my mind.
You're going to believe it's real.
Yeah, but it's meaningless.
So there's a couple of other words in this paragraph that you can put in your columns. One that I found was in sentence 2, attack. And in sentence 4, healing power.
Mhm.
Oh, another one, in the first sentence, perfect openness. The quiet light in which the Holy Spirit dwells within you is merely perfect openness. Okay.
It's
Any
really, it is helpful to clarify those concepts.
You know,
I mean, you say that often your confusion is just with your ideas, your
Mhm.
confusion or your concept,
mhm,
and you can unlearn that,
yeah,
right? And you can unlearn it as soon as you see there's no value in that concept.
yeah, and it's like, did you ever have like a thin gold chain that you put in your jewelry box, and the next time you open the box, it's all tangled up and it's like knotted, and just like, that's how emotions can be. And that, it's like, then we look to our emotions. What are my thoughts that are producing these emotions? And it's like, I can't disentangle it.
Yeah.
We can take the whole chain and put it on the altar and say, Holy Spirit, I don't know squat. I don't know what's going on. Help me. I want to remember that I am the Son of God along with everybody else. And anything that seems to be fearful within me is simply not true.
Yeah, and this section is the section where he says everything you made has to be used by the Holy Spirit,
Yeah.
including separation.
That comes up in the next few
That's right.
paragraphs.
So like separate yourself off from the meanings, from
Right.
guilt.
Right.
I was just wondering if the sentinels of darkness included our defenses.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, for sure.
And see,
Yeah.
what we talked about was there's that general idea. We all need to look at our defenses, but each sentinel is one we made up specifically to ourselves. It's like, that's my idea.
It's like a self-concept.
Yeah.
That's another sentinel of darkness. Oh, I can't be angry. I'm a loving person. Look at all these loving things I do. I could not possibly be angry. It's like my self-concept is used as a proof of what's really going on. Baloney, So, okay, good. This is good. Go ahead.
Laura's question. Can I go back to Laura's question about
Yes,
the
please.
trying to well, looking for let's get this right, bringing darkness to the light rather than trying to bring light into the darkness.
Yeah.
And the way I had that described that seems helpful is that the darkness is your personal self. Okay. So if you're trying to bring light into your personal self or your personal situation or even your concept of the world, then that isn't going to work, because ultimately your personal self isn't real anyway. Whereas if you bring in that personal self to the light, then you're admitting that it isn't real and that you look into something higher. That just helped me to, because it always confused me really, that bit about not bringing light to darkness and instead bringing darkness to light. It's like, what?
That's good. That's like ultimate.
That's
Yeah.
really just what it is. And it doesn't even have to be as deep as the truth of who I am. It's just my thoughts that I'm making up,
Right.
right?
Mm.
My private thoughts is not what I'm sharing.
Yeah.
That's really helpful, though. It's basically saying bringing what's not real to truth for it to be dispelled.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the Eastern, from the unreal to the real. That's
Okay.
the way we're moving, from darkness to light.
That's right. Yeah. Thank God. Connie, could you read 3 for us, please?
Would you continue to give imagined power to these strange ideas of safety? They are neither safe nor unsafe. They do not protect, neither do they attack. They do nothing at all, being nothing at all. As guardians of darkness and of ignorance, look to them only for fear, for what they keep obscure is fearful. But let them go, and what was fearful will no longer be. Without protection of obscurity, only the light of love remains, for only this has meaning and can live in light. Everything else must disappear. So this kind of alludes to what I was thinking in the last conversation, because the way I frame it is, if I can disappear my I, which is who I think I am, then there's nothing but the light.
Yeah, that's really great.
That's like what Eric was saying.
Yeah,
Go right to who you really are.
yeah.
Right.
But we can do it in small increments. Like every time I feel upset, I'm identifying with the false self. Yeah.
Yeah, and anytime I think I know what should be or what is, or, yeah, it's,
Mm. You guys are great students and teachers of the course.
Can I ask a question before she finishes on sentence 6? Mine reads, but let them go, and what was fearful will be so no longer.
Mhm.
When you read it and Connie read it, you said would be no long, would be so, you said it the other way, would no
yeah.
longer be. Is mine the right one?
Yeah, it's really what it says. Yeah.
yeah.
What was fearful will not be fearful anymore, is what it's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's
All righty.
neither here nor there, really.
Yeah, because everything is fearful. I mean, if I'm not aware, then everything is fearful.
Yeah.
Even things that, I'm seeing that even things that I feel are my true self, and this is how it is. It still comes up. It's fearful. It's always fearful.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, my dad pointed out that everything can be fearful. Every single thing. If you look at a wooden bookcase, it could burn. It could set the house on fire. The frying pan, somebody could hit you over the head with it. I mean, every single thing can be used for fear or for love. It's really kind of funny when you think of it.
Was he in the New Englander? He's
Yeah.
from New England.
Yeah.
That sort of stoic, sort of
Yeah,
like
yeah. Yeah.
nothing to it.
Yeah, right. I think he had a little bit of the transcendentalist in him
Yeah,
too.
but
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on that paragraph?
I don't think she finished. Did she finish? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Kathy, please.
Death yields to life simply because destruction is not true. The light of guiltlessness shines guilt away because when they are brought together, the truth of one must make the falsity of its opposite perfectly clear. Keep not guilt and guiltlessness apart, for your belief that you can have them both is meaningless. All you have done by keeping them apart is lose their meaning by confusing them with each other. And so you do not realize that only one means anything. The other is wholly without sense of any kind. So I'm a little confused. It says, keep not guilt and guiltlessness apart. And then it says, all you have done by keeping them apart is lose their meaning. Okay, now I get it. Yeah. Okay. So it's like Timothy said, it's like thinking there's value in both.
Right.
That's what screws you up.
Right.
Yeah.
And
It's really
it goes all the way back to thinking that the inside is different from the outside, that I can hide my thoughts from someone else. It's like, it's that shell of separateness, of ego that we put around our belief in who we are, that makes us think that there can be guilt out there and guiltlessness in here. And it's all shown to be what it is when we bring our hidden guilt, our sense of unworthiness, or our fear, whether specific or generalized, to the Holy Spirit and say, show me what's real. Show me the healing light of love. I have an experience of fear. I'm experiencing disappointment or frustration or anger. These are forms of guilt. Let me see that they're not real by bringing them to the Holy Spirit.
Because it always goes back to the loss of God's love and my
Yes.
love
It does.
to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, the Course says, putting it in the ego's thought system of the Holy Spirit's thought system, he says, you consult the ego about who you are, and you're consulting the one thing in all of the universe that doesn't know
Right.
what you are. It just doesn't know what you are.
Right.
One thing I want to point out is notice the congruence between 4:1 and 1:1. Death yields to life simply because destruction is not true. That's what Jesus claimed in chapter 6 about the resurrection. He said, I proved destruction is not real because I'm still communicating.
I'm
with
still
you,
here.
and
Yeah.
I'm still here.
Yeah.
And so the first sentence is, the journey we undertake together is the exchange of dark for the light of ignorance and for understanding.
Darkness for light.
That's where the human form can be a model into the divine, right? And just show that this sense of loss or destruction of self is not real.
Right.
Because that's one of the ego's main ways of dealing with guilt, is just say, well, you'll just die and it'll all be over.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's his way that it deals with guilt in life. You just die, it'll all be gone, and you'll just disappear.
That's right. So I found a couple of other words, and I'm adding to my list. Well, at least one of them, confusing. All you have done by keeping them apart is to lose their meaning by confusing them with one another. That confusion, all of these things are, you could say, are the sentinels of darkness.
Yeah. I think Laura pointed it out, maybe here or before, but when we make this transition, we realize, okay, I'm a student, I make mistakes, but
Yeah.
they'll be corrected.
Big deal.
I mean, that's why I'm learning.
That's why when the light shines on my anger, it disappears. It's just like, oh, okay, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
My thinking was distorted. Big deal. It's over. The light of God, the healing light of love is here.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Eric, 5, please.
You have regarded the separation as a means for breaking your communication with your Father. The Holy Spirit reinterprets it as a means of re-establishing what was not broken, but has been made obscure. All things you made have use to him for his most holy purpose. He knows you are not separate from God, but he perceives much in your mind that lets you think you are. All this and nothing else would he separate from you. The power of decision, which you made in place of the power of creation, he would teach you how to use on your behalf. You who made it to crucify yourself must learn of him how to apply it to the holy cause of restoration. Wow, restoration, that's definitely in the one of the right column, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I like that first bit when he's saying your communication with the Father hasn't been broken, really, it's just been obscured. And that's the great lie that we're believing, isn't it? That we are separate from God. And even though the Course says on every page that I'm not, because most of the time I don't feel like I'm joined with God, then I don't believe it. I believe the guilt. I believe the feeling of separation. So it's helpful to look at it as a obscuration rather than a split, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because if there's a split, then how are you going to mend that split?
Yeah.
You can't, can you? It's just impossible. But if it's just obscured, it's like a cloud going past in the sky, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's gonna go
I
because
know.
we can tell it's not really real.
Beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else?
You know, and it's teaching us from experience. I mean,
Yeah.
we get the experience from guiltlessness, the peace that comes from it, the
Right.
satisfaction. It's not, I'm anxious about the future or regretting the past.
Right.
We're just that feel complete and whole in the present.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking how that comes not from language as much or speaking, but more being,
Uh-huh.
like how being in the right mind is so many times brought about by not saying any, you know, just where you are or how you know, you're with nature or you're with someone and you just feel this connection and this love. It's not about the languaging of it.
Right.
Right on, yeah.
Right. So all things you made have use to him. He's going to talk about that language in the next paragraph, but I'd like to point out how when we were studying this together, we discovered lesson 151 and 152 are really emphasized in this paragraph. So 151 is the one we call thought laundering.
Mhm.
And the other one is
All thoughts, all things are echoes
of the voice for God. And it says, bring all that you don't want, you know, bring your dirty laundry to the Holy Spirit. He'll wash it for you and give it back to you clean
As a miracle.
as a miracle.
And in today's lesson in the workbook, it's saying the miracles that come back to you are very specific and concrete.
Mhm.
Something that, like we've been saying, for love to have meaning, we have to recognize the form
Yes.
of it. It has to deal with these forms that seem to come up.
Right. So
And I'm glad to hear what Connie say again. It's just my being
mhm.
there that is healing, that's restoring the sonship, because it's been restored in me.
So our being really is in God,
Yeah,
but we think that it's outside of God.
yeah.
And when we change our mind about who we are, we move back into the sonship,
Yeah.
into the atonement.
Yeah.
So that power of decision is explicitly mentioned in sentence 6, the power of decision, which you made in place of the power of creation, he would teach you how to use on your behalf. He'll teach you how to go from one column to the other. That's lesson 152. So there's a lot of really important course concepts that are touched on in this paragraph.
Right. And so the claim is, if the Holy Spirit makes all your decisions for you, then all that will be there is the light of love, your guiltlessness, and the guilt will be gone, the fear will be gone.
Right.
And
And we'll
that's
be
the,
miracle workers.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's that peace, path is under, we can't even understand it, but it's the gift to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's see. It must be Laura's turn.
It must be. You who speak in dark and devious symbols do not understand the language you have made. It has no meaning, for its purpose is not communication, but rather this disruption of communication. If the purpose of language is communication, how can this tongue mean anything? Yet even this strange and twisted effort to communicate through not communicating holds enough of love to make it meaningful if its interpreter is not its maker. I have to say that one again. Yet even this strange and twisted effort to communicate through not communicating holds enough of love to make it meaningful if its interpreter is not its maker.
So notice the interpreter's capital I, Holy Spirit.
Yeah. So,
Who's the maker?
Yes.
yeah. Go ahead, Timothy.
I'm asking you who's
Oh, okay. So what we're saying is, so I say that I want to, I've made language, which is a symbol of communion, right? Let's say, and I'm saying, oh, I'm trying to communicate, but I know how limited it is and can't really, this is my understanding, can't really express the thought of God or the voice of God in the way that it really is, because we can't even understand it in this form. But it doesn't matter, because Holy Spirit will interpret it into right perception for us. So I've made something that's pretty poor and maybe not even with the best intentions, but it doesn't matter, because going back to what you said earlier, Jen, Holy Spirit can use anything that we've made.
Right. So I think that it will help if, and we're only halfway through this paragraph, but I'm going to jump in here. It'll really help if we recognize that our language, at least the English language, is set up so that the outside world is causing my inside condition. And so the most obvious
I can
one,
use language in that way.
that's
my sentiment.
That's the typical way
Yeah.
language is used. So he made me mad. Look what's going on politically. It's making us this way. The outside world, the language itself, you have to be very careful if you want to express a greater degree of truth. So for example, if it's about anger, I could say, I'm experiencing anger. When you did this thing, it tripped my wire. It triggered my defenses. Now you see how that's taking responsibility?
Yeah.
And so the thing that the other person did is not causal. Our language is set up with cause and effect reversed. And so we can use it carefully to express something closer to the truth. But still, even if I said, I'm experiencing anger, the I that's experiencing anger is only the ego, which is not real. So that's what Laura was saying. We can get closer, but we can't get the blah, blah stuff really can't express truth. This language here comes about as close as we can get at challenge.
Yeah, the other thing I think of there is language is in the world of form, which we know does not exist. And yet the other characteristic of language is that when we use it, it's like it's a thing, like if I say I'm mad at you or angry with you, it's a thing, anger or mad. And it's like it's concrete. It's like that table that doesn't exist,
Right, we're making it up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the attack. That's not real. It's like, I'm mad at you. What? You just hit me with a mad bomb, and it's like nothing really happened.
There's nothing there. I mean, you say it. Can you see it? No, it doesn't exist. It just.
Yeah. And yet the Son of God can't make anything that doesn't have some love in it.
Right. So one way to talk about the transition in terms of accepting the atonement for myself, letting the Holy Spirit make all of my decisions for myself is what? What's the outcome of that?
Happiness and joy.
Communication of what's valuable, which is guiltlessness. That's his communication. So an example of that, and it's kind of an obscure idea, but an example of that in chapter 6, before he gave those 3 lessons of the Holy Spirit, which are framework for most of forgiveness, he said, what the Holy Spirit does is translate communication into being. So the first lesson is give all to all. So when I understand what's really communicating here is this Christ shared self with each other, then I'm not giving away something to something other than myself.
You're growing.
Giving is receiving. Heaven is, that's shared because it's a shared being. So the Holy Spirit lets us learn forgiveness,
That's great.
communicate salvation, communicate guiltlessness. And then the language we made to make guilt real is a language that can be used to make guiltlessness have value.
Great. So let's continue with this paragraph.
Yeah. Just to add one thing to what Timothy was saying is that when we chose to be separate, we chose to eventually create language, which, like just thinking about all the different times just in a day that I use language and someone doesn't understand what I mean. And it's just, so it was, we chose this as a way to, again, be separate, where we can't really be real. Like if we were communing with the one mind, clear, everyone, and there's only one message then, right? It's love. That's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think I left at 4, so I'll pick up at 5. You who made it, language, are but expressing conflict from which the Holy Spirit would release you, leaving what you would communicate to him. He will interpret it to you with perfect clarity, for he knows with whom you are in perfect communication. And so those few sentences mean to me is, say what you want, but really, again, it goes back to really the only communion or really true message is love. So he cuts through all the bull crap, right? And it just comes to call for love or love. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah. And the ego wants us to believe that the flow of love has somehow been canceled by our actions or our thoughts or whatever.
Right.
I mean, that's completely insane.
Right.
Who would we be to cancel universal love?
Yeah, really. I like sentence 6. It's an injunction. Leave what you would communicate to him. If I can stop before I open my mouth and say, Holy Spirit, what would you have me say?
Yeah.
What would you have me do, etc. But how do I really want to feel? And how can I really communicate love? It's like if I ask him before I try to speak, I'm closer. I've got a better channel to truth.
Well, we all learn count to 10. Right.
Yeah, but even ordinary things.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that reactive mind is easy to train. You can train yourself to see that reactiveness like that.
Yeah. Connie, could you read 7, please?
You know not what you say, and so you know not what is said to you. Yet your interpreter perceives the meaning in your alien language. He will not attempt to communicate the meaningless, but he will separate out all that has meaning, dropping off the rest and offering your true communication to those who would communicate as truly with you. You speak 2 languages at once, and this must lead to unintelligibility. Yet if one means nothing and the other everything, only that one is possible for the purposes of communication. The other but interferes with it. That is so true. It's like what you were just talking about, coming from Holy Spirit versus coming from my ego. And it takes so much training. And then sometimes I'll be in a conversation with someone who's really angry and I'm doing okay. And then they say one thing that somehow goes right to the ego. And I'm like, bleh. And it's like, it's not the language I want to be using.
Yeah. Anything else on this paragraph?
Well, that he will separate out all that has meaning, dropping off the rest and offering your true communication to those who would communicate as truly with you, which says, you know, it's the other person has to be willing too,
Yeah.
so that I'm not. It's that thing about, I always say they're not reacting to you, because we all come from our own stuff. So I can do what I can do for myself to be with Holy Spirit, but if the other person isn't willing to do that, communicate in that way, Holy Spirit will do it at some point, but maybe not at this time,
Right.
when I want it.
It really helps to use Holy Spirit, even when we're speaking with people who are, totally in their ego, angry, in grief, whatever, still. But the ones who are thinking as we are thinking are going to get it on a higher level. That's like the fruition of the holy relationship.
Yeah, I mean, so the ego's idea that it stopped love, I mean, God kind of means he's always working. Love is always there working.
Right.
And that's what we put our trust in.
Right.
And so if I offer miracles,
Yeah.
then I know miracles are going to come back to me.
Right.
Right. Because I haven't given it off anywhere. It's just internal to being. It's just the mind that can make the meaningless can also let go of it.
Yeah.
Let go. So here's where he's using separation as a positive.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We believe we separated from love, and the Holy Spirit says, separate yourself from that belief.
Right.
Let go of that value.
Right.
And let go of that darkness. And then what is true is just there.
Right.
He said he'll make all your decisions so you experience your guiltlessness. It's already there. It's just we either go back in time or in the future anxiety. And it's just in that moment. If I, like you said, if I can just stop myself when I'm reactive like that, and say,
help me.
help, or maybe somebody else knows more than me, that.
That idea of separation, that these lists that we made, that's separating out what's true from what's false.
Yep.
So it's just another way that separation, fragmentation, whatever we made can be used by the Holy Spirit.
See, that to me gives me instant comfort, because I don't have to be then averse to what's going on inside me.
And we don't even have to be figuring things out.
Yeah.
We just say, hey, look, I don't like how I feel. Holy Spirit, shine some light on this. Let me see this with you. Interpret this situation or this language.
What does it mean?
Yeah, what does it really mean? Okay, paragraph 8. We'll wind this up. Kathy, could you read that for us?
The Holy Spirit's function is entirely communication. He therefore must remove whatever interferes with communication in order to restore it. Therefore, keep no source of interference from his sight, for he will not attack your sentinels, but bring them to him, and let his gentleness teach you that in the light they are not fearful. It cannot serve to guard the dark doors behind which nothing at all is carefully concealed. We must open all doors and let the light come streaming through. There are no hidden chambers in God's temple. Its gates are wide open to greet his Son. No one can fail to come where God has called him, if he close not the doors himself upon his Father's welcome.
What stood out for you in that?
Well, all the interference is on my side. The lack of communication. Right. It's all on my side. It's like I'm the one that needs to open the door. I'm the one that shuts the door. I'm the one that guards carefully my nothingness.
Right on.
It's all my side.
That was beautiful.
And the Holy Spirit has to be the one to remove that.
Right.
Right. I bring it. so he can remove it.
Right.
I'm confused. I
Right.
think I understand,
Right.
but I can't if I feel guilty.
And this is a perfect spot to point out that we can't do forgiveness by ourselves.
Mhm.
We have to bring
Mhm.
our unforgiveness to the Holy Spirit or to our higher mind, to God. We bring that to God and ask for something. What that does is restore our communication with God. If we try to forgive all by ourselves, oh, I've tried to forgive, hands wringing, years of trying to forgive. That is only possible if we're trying to do it with the ego. If we just say, I'm in pain, Holy Spirit, here's my pain. Hey, remember reading just a couple days ago that last section in chapter 15, which is about Christmas.
Yeah.
And it says the Holy Spirit just wants your pain. That's his gift.
Yeah.
Bring to him everything that would hurt and humble you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had a question on 3. So therefore keep no source of interference from his sight, for he will not attack your sentinels. So I guess it just brings a question of clarification for me. I thought Holy Spirit sees everything, understands everything. It's only your willingness that would stop him from, as it were, I guess, I wouldn't say attacking the sentinels, but bringing light to them and dispelling them.
Well, yeah.
So is it a willingness, or is it, can we really keep anything secret from Holy Spirit? Is that really true?
Well, we believe we can.
Excuse me.
Right? We believe in this private world.
Yeah. So, but what she's saying, does Holy Spirit, well, it says Holy Spirit understands perception as well as knowledge. And perception is a form of darkness. Even the real world is still, it's still got it's still not the one self.
What is I'm not sure of the question. And what's the question?
I suppose the way I read 3 is that we cannot, instead of it being a matter of our willingness to have it on the altar for Holy Spirit and to let it go, that it's actually, there's some things Holy Spirit doesn't even know because we're keeping it hidden. So I don't know if I understood that sentence right, or if that was the intention.
Well, let me share with you what I think it's saying, or part of what I think it's saying. If we want to give meaning to the meaningless, if we want to give meaning to guilt, and that's what we really want, then the Holy Spirit can't deal with that because of the power of our minds. Right. And we don't see that we're making it up.
Mm-hmm.
So what it's saying is we have to learn to recognize that guilt is meaningless. We have to be willing to recognize it has no meaning.
Right.
And then what has meaning has to come from the Holy Spirit, because that's what he's also saying here. He's the one who has to remove the interference.
Right.
But he sees that we think there's meaning in meaningless.
Right.
Not that he
knows that's not real.
He knows that that's not real. And so when we bring it to him,
right.
So as I read it, it says, we've got to take that first step, recognize our mind is free. Nothing outside of it caused anything to happen except the mind itself. It's free. And I'm free to make another choice, which is, Holy Spirit, remove this darkness. Right. Show me what's valuable, what's good. What's that?
Show me the love.
Does that make any sense? It's up to us?
Yeah, it does. I guess I just was like surprised, and maybe that's just something that it's in my subconscious and I don't realize that I have this belief or whatever dark thing. So I can't offer it up until, I'm willing for that to come up. I suppose, it's kind of like a nitpicky thing. To me, it's like, if I'm willing and working the course, that those things are going to come up and I'll hand them over, and that's the end of it. So it was just like, I was just like, could I really hide something from Spirit? Well, that sounds interesting.
I might have this. Yeah.
I knew a guy.
I might have this wrong, but was, oh,
No, go ahead, Kathy.
Go ahead, Kathy.
there was a, can you hear me?
Yeah,
We can hear you.
It's kind of cutting out, but at any rate, let's see, one time Helen, let's see, Jesus was talking to Helen and was talking about Bill and saying that he could not predict where his mind was going to go. You know, he was all over the place and he didn't know, he could predict. You can hear me or you can't hear me?
yes.
We can hear you. Your video is breaking up, but your voice is fine.
Okay. But he said that he couldn't anticipate where Bill was going to think, what Bill was going to think next. It was kind of up to him to bring his, I might have that wrong, but it was up to him to bring his problems to the light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That we still have free will. We still have the power of decision, is what that amounted to. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's when we believe something outside of us has caused our experience, we're believing the mind is not free.
Exactly.
But in truth, the mind is free.
And powerful.
And we have to prove that to ourselves.
Right.
By willing to, not be bound by those experiences.
Right.
But then the Holy Spirit has to be the one who really unbinds me.
Right.
Right? Because I am confused.
Yeah. Well, thank you for this study. We can turn off the recording, but stay on for a second.
All right, you want me to stop it now?
Mhm.
Is there any last comments on what we read? Okay, stop.